When I got to Spago, Celia was already seated. She was wearing black slacks and a gauzy, cream-colored sleeveless blouse. The temperature outside was a warm 78 degrees, but the restaurant's air conditioning was on high, and she looked just a little bit cold. Her arms were covered in goosebumps. Her red hair was still stunning, but now clearly dyed. The golden undertones that had been there before, the result of nature and sunlight, were now slightly saturated, coppery. Her blue eyes were just as enticing as they always had been, but now the skin around them was softer. I'd been to a plastic surgeon a few times in the past several years. I suspected she had, too. I was wearing a deep V-necked black dress, belted at the waist. My blonde hair, a bit lighter now from the gray that had been creeping in and cut shorter, was framing my face. She stood when she saw me. "Evelyn," she said. I hugged her. "Celia." "You look great," she said. "You always do." "You look just like you did the last time I saw you," I said. "We never did tell each other lies," she said, smiling. "Let's not start now." "You're gorgeous," I said. "Ditto." I ordered a glass of white wine. She ordered a club soda with lime. "I don't drink anymore," Celia said. "It's not sitting with me the way it once did." "That's fine. If you want, I can toss my wine right out the window the moment it gets to the table." "No," she said, laughing. "Why should my low tolerance be your problem?" "I want everything about you to be my problem," I said. "Do you realize what you're saying?" she whispered to me as she leaned across the table. The neck of her blouse opened and dipped into the breadbasket. I was worried it would graze the butter, but somehow it didn't. "Of course I realize what I'm saying." "You destroyed me," she said. "Twice now in our lives. I have spent years getting over you." "Did you succeed? Either time?" "Not completely." "I think that means something." "Why now?" she asked. "Why didn't you call years ago?" "I called you 1,000,000 times after you left me. I practically knocked down your door," I reminded her. "I thought you hated me." "I did," she said. She pulled back a bit. "I still hate you, I think. At least a little bit." "You think I don't hate you, too?" I tried to keep my voice down, tried to pretend it was a chat between two old friends. "Just a little bit?" Celia smiled. "No, I suppose it would make sense that you do. But I'm not going to let that stop me," I said. She sighed and looked at her menu. I leaned in conspiratorially. "I didn't think I had a shot before," I told her. "After you left me, I thought the door was closed, and now it's open a crack, and I want to swing it wide open and walk in." "What makes you think the door is open?" she asked, looking at the left side of the menu. "We are having dinner, aren't we?" "As friends," she said. "You and I have never been friends." She closed her menu and put it down on the table. "I need reading glasses," she said. "Can you believe that? Reading glasses." "Join the club." "I can be mean sometimes when I'm hurt," she reminded me. "You're not exactly telling me something I don't know." "I made you feel like you weren't talented," she said. "I tried to make you think you needed me because I made you legitimate." "I know that. But you've always been legitimate." "I know that now, too," I told her. "I thought you would call me after you won the Oscar. I thought maybe you would want to show me, you'd want to shove it in my face." "Did you listen to my speech?" "Of course I did," she said. "I reached out to you," I said. I picked up a piece of bread and buttered it, but I put it down immediately, not taking a single bite. "I wasn't sure," Celia said. I wasn't sure if you meant me." "I all but said your name." "You said she." "Precisely. I thought maybe you had another she." I had looked at other women besides Celia. I had pictured myself with other women besides her. But everyone, for what had felt like my whole life, had always been divided into Celia and not Celia. Every other woman I considered striking up a conversation with might as well have had "Not Celia" stamped on her forehead. If I was going to risk my career and everything I loved for a woman, it was going to be her. "There is no she but you," I told her. Celia listened and closed her eyes, and then she spoke. It was as if she had tried to stop herself and simply couldn't. But there were he's. "This old song and dance," I said, trying to stop myself from rolling my eyes. "I was with Max. You were clearly with Joan. Did Joan hold a candle to me?" "No," Celia said. "And Max didn't hold a candle to you. But you're still married to him." "I'm filing papers. He's moving out. It's over." "That's abrupt." "It's not, actually. It's overdue. And anyway, he found your letters," I said. "And he's leaving you?" "No, he's threatening to out me if I don't stay with him." "What?" "I'm leaving him," I said, "and I'm letting him do whatever the hell he wants, because I'm 50 years old, and I don't have the energy to be controlling every single thing anyone says about me until I die of old age. The parts I'm being offered are shit. I have the Oscar on my mantle. I have a spectacular daughter. I have Harry. I'm a household name. They will write about my movies for years to come. What more do I want? A gold statue in my honor?" Celia laughed. "That's what an Oscar is," she said. I laughed too. "Exactly. Excellent point. I already have that then. There's nothing else, Celia. There are no more mountains to climb. I spent my life hiding so no one would knock me off the mountain. Well, you know what? I'm done hiding. Let them come and get me. They can throw me down a well as far as I'm concerned. I'm signed on to do one last movie over at Fox later this year, and then I'm done." "You don't mean that." "I do. Any other line of thinking, it's how I lost you. I don't want to lose any more." "It's not just our careers," she said. "The ramifications are unpredictable. What if they take Connor away? Because I'm in love with a woman? Because they think both her parents are queers." I sipped my wine. "I can't win with you," I said finally. "If I want to hide, you call me a coward. If I'm tired of hiding, you tell me they'll take my daughter." "I'm sorry," Celia said. She did not seem sorry for what she had said, so much as sorry that we lived in the world we lived in. "Do you mean it?" she asked. "Will you really give it up?" "Yes," I said. "Yes, I would." "Are you absolutely sure?" she asked, just as the waiter put her steak down in front of her and my salad in front of me. "I mean absolutely sure?" "Yes." Celia was quiet for a moment. She stared down at her plate. She seemed to be considering everything about this moment, and the longer she took to speak, the farther I found myself bending forward, trying to get closer to her. "I have chronic obstructive pulmonary disease," she said finally. "I probably won't make it much past 60. I stared at her. "You're lying," I said. "I'm not." "Yes, you are. That can't be true." "It is true." "No, it's not," I said. "It is," she said. She picked up her fork. She sipped the water in front of her. My mind was reeling, thoughts bouncing around my brain, my heart spinning in my chest. And then Celia spoke again, and the only reason I was able to focus on her words was that I knew they were important. I knew they mattered. "I think you should do your movie," she said. "Finish strong, and then after that, I think we should move to the coast of Spain." "What?" "I have always liked the idea of spending the last years of my life on a beautiful beach, with the love of a good woman," she said. You're dying?" "I can look into some locations in Spain while you're shooting. I'll find a place where Connor can get a great education. I'll sell my home here. I'll get a compound somewhere with enough space for Harry, too. And Robert." "Your brother Robert?" Celia nodded. He moved out here for business a few years ago. We've become close. He knows who I am. He supports me. What is chronic obstructive emphysema, more or less, she said, from smoking. Do you still smoke? You should stop right now. I shook my head, having long ago given it up. They have treatments to slow down the process. I can live a normal life for the most part for a while. And then what? And then eventually it will become difficult to be active, hard to breathe. When that happens, I won't have much time. All told, we're looking at 10 years, give or take, if I'm lucky. 10 years? You're only 49. I know. I started crying. I couldn't help it. You're making a scene, she said. You have to stop. I can't, I said. Okay, she said, okay. She picked up her purse and threw down a $100 bill. She pulled me out of my chair and we walked to the valet. She gave him her ticket. She put me in the front seat of the car. She drove me to her house. She sat me on the sofa. Can you handle this? She said. What do you mean? I asked her. Of course I can't handle it. If you can handle this, she said, then we can do this. We can be together. I think we can spend the rest of our lives together, Evelyn, if you can handle this. But I can't in good conscience do this to you if you don't think you'll survive it. Survive what exactly? Losing me again. I don't want to let you love me if you don't think you can lose me again, one last time. I can't, of course I can't. But I want to anyway. I'm going to anyway. Yes, I said finally. I can survive it. I'd rather survive it than never feel it. Are you sure? She said. Yes, I said. Yes, I'm sure. I've never been more sure about anything. I love you, Celia. I've always loved you. And we should spend the rest of the time we have together. She grabbed my face, she kissed me, and I wept. She started crying with me, and soon I couldn't tell whether the tears I was tasting were hers or mine. All I knew was that I was once again in the arms of the woman I was always meant to love. Eventually, Celia's blouse was on the floor and my dress was hiked up around my thighs. I could feel her lips on my chest, her hands on my stomach. I stepped out of my dress. Her sheets were stark white and perfectly soft. She no longer smelled like cigarettes and alcohol, but like citrus. In the morning I woke up with her hair in my face, fanned across the pillow. I rolled to my side and curved my body against the back of hers. Here's what we're going to do, Celia said. You're going to leave Max. I'm going to call a friend of mine in Congress. He's a representative from Vermont. He needs some press. You're going to be seen around with him. We're going to spread a rumor that you're stepping out on Max with a younger man. How old is he? 29. Jesus, Celia, he's a child, I said. That's exactly what people will say. They'll be shocked that you're dating him. And when Max tries to slander me, it won't matter what he's trying to claim about you. It will look like he's just bitter. And then, I asked, and then, down the line, you marry my brother. Why am I going to marry Robert? So that when I die, everything I own will be yours. My estate will be under your control, and you can keep my legacy. You could appoint that to me? And have someone try to take it away because you were my lover? No, this is better. This is smarter. But marrying your brother? Are you crazy? He'll do it, she said, for me, and because he's a rake who likes to bed almost every woman he sees. You'd be good for his reputation. It's a win-win. All this instead of just telling the truth. I could feel Celia's ribcage expand and contract underneath me. We can't tell the truth. Did you see what they did to Rock Hudson? If it was cancer he was dying of, there'd be telethons. People don't understand AIDS, I said. They understand it just fine, Celia said. They just think that he deserves it because of how he got it. I rested my head on the pillow while my heart sank in my chest. She was right, of course. The past few years, I'd watched Harry lose friend after friend, former lovers, to AIDS. I'd watch him cry his eyes red out of fear that he'd get sick, for not knowing how to help the people he loved. And I'd watched Ronald Reagan never so much as acknowledge what was happening in front of our eyes. I know things have changed since the 60s, she said, but they haven't changed that much. It wasn't that long ago that Reagan said gay rights weren't civil rights. You can't risk losing Connor. So I'll call Jack, my friend in the House of Representatives. We'll plant the story. You'll shoot your movie, you'll marry my brother, and we'll all move to Spain. I'll have to talk to Harry. Of course, she said, talk to Harry. If he hates Spain, we'll go to Germany or Scandinavia or Asia. I don't care. We just need to go somewhere where people won't care who we are, where people will leave us alone, and Connor can live a normal childhood. You'll need medical care. I'll fly where I need to, or we can bring people to me. I thought about it. It's a good plan. Yeah? Celia was flattered. I could tell. The student has become the master, I said. She laughed, and I kissed her. We're home, I said. This wasn't my home. We'd never lived here together before. But she knew what I meant. Yes, she said. We're home.
Now this. July 1st, 1988. Evelyn Hugo and Max Girard divorce turns ugly amid reports of Hugo cheating. Evelyn Hugo is headed to divorce court one more time. She filed papers citing irreconcilable differences this week, and while she's an old hand at this, it looks like this one's gonna be a doozy. Sources say Max Girard is seeking spousal support, and reports have surfaced claiming that Girard is bad-mouthing Hugo all over town. He's so angry he's saying just about anything he can to get back at her, an insider close to the former couple says. You name it, he's said it. She's a cheater. She's a lesbian. She owes him her Oscar. It's clear he's very heartbroken. Hugo was recently seen out with a much younger man last week. Jack Easton, a Democratic congressman from Vermont, is only 29 years old. That's more than 2 decades younger than Evelyn. And if the photos of their evening together out to dinner in Los Angeles are any indication, it looks like a blossoming romance. Hugo doesn't have a great track record, but in this case, it seems like one thing is clear. Girard's comments certainly sound like sour grapes.
Harry wasn't on board. He was the one piece of the plan that wasn't up to me, the one person I wasn't willing to manipulate into doing what I wanted him to do. And he didn't want to leave everything behind and fly off to Europe. You're suggesting I retire, Harry said. And I'm not even 60 yet. My God, Evelyn, what on earth am I going to do all day? Play cards on the beach? That doesn't sound nice. It sounds nice for about an hour and a half, he said. He was drinking what looked like orange juice, but I suspected was a screwdriver. And then I'd be stuck trying to occupy myself for the rest of my life. We were sitting in my dressing room on the set of Teresa's Wisdom. Harry had found the script and sold it to Fox with me attached to play Teresa, a woman who is leaving her husband while desperately trying to keep her children together. It was the 3rd day of shooting, and I was in costume, a white Chanel pantsuit and pearls, about to go on set to shoot the scene where Teresa and her husband announce that they are divorcing over Christmas dinner. Harry looked as handsome as ever in khaki slacks and an Oxford shirt. He had gone almost entirely gray by then, and I actively resented him for growing more attractive as he aged, while I had to watch my value disappear by the day like a molding lemon. Harry, don't you want to stop living this lie? What lie? He asked. I understand it's a lie for you because you want to make it work with Celia, and you know that I support that, I do. But this life isn't a lie for me. There are men, I said, my voice losing patience, as if Harry was trying to pull one over on me. Don't pretend there aren't men. Sure, but there is not a single man anyone could draw any sort of meaningful connection to, Harry said, because I have only loved John, and he's gone. I'm only famous because you're famous, Ev. They don't care about me or what I'm doing unless it somehow relates to you. Any men in my life, I see them for a few weeks and then they're gone. I'm not living a lie, I'm just living my life. I took a deep breath, trying not to get too worked up before having to go on set and pretend to be a repressed wasp. Don't you care that I have to hide? I do, he said. You know I do. Well, then, but why does your relationship with Celia mean that we should uproot Connor's life and mine? She's the love of my life, I said. You know that. I want to be with her. It's time for us all to be together again. We can't be together again, he said, putting his hand down on the table. Not all of us. And he walked away. Harry and I were flying home every weekend to be with Connor, and during the weeks we shot, I was with Celia, and he was, well, I didn't know where he was, but he seemed happy, so I didn't question it. I suspected in the back of my mind that he might have met someone who was capable of keeping his interest for more than a few days. So when Teresa's wisdom went 3 weeks over our shooting schedule because my co-star Ben Madley was hospitalized for exhaustion, I was torn. On the one hand, I wanted to go back to being with my daughter every night. On the other hand, Connor was growing more and more annoyed by me every day. She found her mother to be the very epitome of embarrassment. The fact that I was a world-renowned film star seemed to have absolutely no effect on just how big of an idiot Connor saw me to be. So I was often happier in L.A. with Celia than I was in New York, constantly rejected by my own flesh and blood. But I would have dropped it all in a heartbeat if I thought Connor might want even an evening of my time. The day after filming wrapped, I was packing up some of my things and talking to Connor on the phone, making plans for the next day. Your father and I are getting on the red-eye tonight, so I'll be there when you wake up in the morning, I told her. Okay, she said, cool. I thought we could go to breakfast at Channing's. Mom, no one goes to Channing's anymore. I hate to break it to you, but if I go to Channing's, Channing's will still be considered cool. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I say you're impossible. All I'm trying to do is take you to eat French toast, Connie. There are worse things. There was a knock on the door of the Hollywood Hills bungalow I'd rented. I opened it to see Harry. I gotta go, Mom, Connor said. Karen is coming over. Louisa's making us barbecue meatloaf, she said. Wait 1 second, I said. Your father is here. He wants to say hi to you. Goodbye, honey. I'll see you tomorrow. I handed Harry the phone. Hi, little bug. Well, she has a point. If your mother shows up somewhere, that does sort of mean that, by definition, it will be considered a hotspot. That's fine. That's fine. Tomorrow morning, the 3 of us will go out for breakfast, and we can go to whatever the cool new place is. It's called what? Whiffles. What kind of a name is that? Okay, we'll go to Whiffles. All right, honey, good night. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. Harry sat down on my bed and looked at me. Apparently, we are going to Whiffles. You're like putty in her hands, Harry, I said. He shrugged. I feel no shame in it. He stood up and poured himself a glass of water while I continued packing. Listen, I have an idea, he said. As he moved closer to me, I realized he smelled vaguely of liquor. About what? About Europe. Okay, I said. I had resigned to letting it go until Harry and I were settled back in New York. I assumed that then he and I would have the time and the patience to discuss it in more depth. I thought the idea was good for Connor. New York, as much as I loved it, had become a somewhat dangerous place to live. Crime rates were skyrocketing and drugs were everywhere. We were fairly protected from it on the Upper East Side, but I was still uncomfortable with the idea that Connor was growing up so close to so much chaos. And even more to the point, I was no longer sure that a life where her parents were practically bi-coastal and she was being cared for by Louisa when we were gone was the best thing for her. Yes, we'd be uprooting her, and I knew she'd hate me for making her say goodbye to her friends, but I also knew she would benefit from living in a small town. She'd be better off with a mother who could be around more. And, to be frank, she was getting old enough to read gossip columns and watch entertainment news. Was turning on the television and seeing her mother's 6th divorce really the best thing for a child? "I think I know what to do," Harry said. I sat down on the bed, and he sat next to me. "We move here. We move back to Los Angeles." "Harry," I said, "and Celia marries a friend of mine." "A friend of yours?" Harry shifts toward me. "I've met someone." "What?" "We met on the lot. He's working on another production. I thought it was just a casual thing. I think he did too, but I think this is a man I could see myself with." I was so happy for him in that moment. "I thought you couldn't see yourself with anyone," I said, surprised but pleased. "I couldn't," he said. "And what happened?" "Now I can." "I'm thrilled to hear that, Harry. You have no idea." "I'm just not sure this is a good idea." I said, "I don't even know this guy." "You don't need to," Harry said. "I mean, it's not like I chose Celia. You did, and I think I'd like to choose him." "I don't want to act anymore, Harry," I said. All through shooting this last movie, I found myself burning out. I wanted to roll my eyes when asked to do a scene more than once. Hitting my marks felt like running a marathon I'd already run 1,000 times before. So easy, so unchallenging, so uninspiring that you resent even being asked to lace up your shoes. Maybe if I was getting roles that excited me, maybe if I still felt I had something to prove, I don't know, maybe I would have reacted differently. There are so many women who continue to do incredible work well into their 80s or 90s. Celia was like that. She could have turned in riveting performance after riveting performance forever, because she was always consumed by the work. But my heart wasn't in it. My heart was never in the craft of acting, only in the proving. Proving my power, proving my worth, proving my talent. I'd proved it all. "That's fine," Harry said. "You don't have to act anymore." "But if I'm not acting, why would I live in Los Angeles? I want to live somewhere I can be free, where no one will pay attention to me. Do you remember when you were little, and whether it was on your block or a few blocks down, there was inevitably a pair of older ladies who lived together as roommates, and no one asked any questions because nobody cared? I want to be one of those ladies. I can't do that here." "You can't do that anywhere," Harry said. "That's the price you pay for who you are." "I don't accept that. I think it's very possible for me to do that." "Well, I don't want to do that. So what I'm proposing is that you and I remarry, and Celia marries my friend." "We can talk about it later," I said, standing up and taking my toiletry bag to the bathroom. "Evelyn, you don't get to decide what this family does unilaterally." "Who said anything about unilaterally? All I'm saying is that I want to talk about it later. There are a number of options here. We can go to Europe, we can move here, we can stay in New York." Harry shook his head. "He can't move to New York." I sighed, losing my patience. All the more reason for us to discuss this later. Harry stood up, as if he was about to give me a piece of his mind, but then he calmed down. "You're right," he said. "We can discuss it later." He came over to me as I was packing my soap and makeup. He took my arm and kissed my temple. "You'll pick me up tonight," he said, "at my place? We'll have the whole trip to the airport and the flight to discuss it more. We can throw back a couple of Bloody Marys on the plane." "We will figure this out," I told him. "You know that, right? I'm never going to do anything without you. You're my best friend, my family." "I know," he said, "and you're mine. I never thought I could love someone after John. But this guy, Evelyn, I'm falling in love with him. And to know that I could love, that I can—" "I know," I said, grabbing his hand and squeezing it. "I know. I promise I'll do whatever I can. I promise you we will figure this out." "Okay," Harry said, and then he squeezed my hand back and walked out the door. "We will figure this out." My driver, who introduced himself as Nick as I got into the back of the car, picked me up at around 9 in the evening. "To the airport?" Nick said. "Actually, we're going to make a stop on the west side first," I said, giving him the address of the home where Harry was staying. As we made our way across town, through the seedy parts of Hollywood, over the Sunset Strip, I found myself depressed about how unseemly Los Angeles had gotten since I'd left. It was similar to Manhattan in that regard. The decades had not been good to it. Harry was talking about raising Connor here, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we needed to leave both big cities for good. As we were stopped at a red light close to Harry's rented home, Nick turned around briefly and smiled at me. He had a square jaw and a crew cut. I could tell he had probably bedded a number of women based on his smile alone. "I'm an actor," he said, "just like you." I smiled politely. "Nice work if you can get it." He nodded. "Got an agent this week," he said as we started moving again. "I feel like I'm really on my way, but you know, if we get to the airport with time to spare, I'd be interested in any tips you have for somebody starting out." "Uh-huh," I said, looking out the window. I decided as we drove up the dark, winding streets of Harry's neighborhood that if Nick asked me again after we got to the airport, I was going to tell him that it's mostly luck. And that you have to be willing to deny your heritage, to commodify your body, to lie to good people, to sacrifice who you love in the name of what people will think, and to choose the false version of yourself time and time again until you forget who you started out as or why you started doing it to begin with. But just as we pulled around the corner onto Harry's narrow private road, every thought I'd ever had before that moment was erased from my mind. Instead, I was leaning forward, shocked still. In front of us was a car, bent around a fallen tree. The sedan looked as if it had run head-on into the trunk, knocking the tree down on top of it. Miss Hugo," Nick said. "I see it," I told him, not wanting him to confirm that it was really in front of us, that it wasn't merely an optical illusion. He pulled over to the side of the road. I heard the scrape of branches on the driver's side of the car as we parked. I froze with my hand on the door handle. Nick jumped out and ran over. I opened my door and put my feet on the ground. Nick stood to the side, trying to see if he could get one of the doors of the crashed car open. But I walked right to the front, by the tree. I looked in through the windshield. And I saw what I had both feared and yet not truly believed possible. Harry was slumped over the steering wheel. I looked over and saw a younger man in the passenger seat. Everyone sort of assumes that when faced with life and death situations, you will panic. But almost everyone who's actually experienced something like that will tell you that panic is a luxury you cannot afford. In the moment, you act without thinking, doing all you can with the information you have. It's when it's over that you scream and cry and wonder how you got through it. Because most likely, in the case of real trauma, your brain isn't great at making memories. It's almost as if the camera is on, but no one's recording, So afterward you go to review the tape and it's all but blank. Here is what I remember. I remember Nick breaking open Harry's car door. I remember helping to pull Harry out. I remember thinking that we shouldn't move Harry because we could paralyze him. But I also remember thinking that I couldn't possibly stand by and allow Harry to stay there, slumped on the wheel like that. I remember holding Harry in my arms as he bled. I remember the deep gash in his eyebrow, the way the blood coated half his face in thick rust red. I remember seeing the cut from where the seat belt had sliced the lower side of his neck. I remember 2 of his teeth being in his lap. I remember rocking him back and forth. I remember saying, "Stay with me, Harry. Stay with me. Stay, True Blue." I remember the other man on the road next to me. I remember Nick telling me he was dead. I remember thinking that no one who looked like that could be alive. I remember Harry's right eye opening. I remember the way it inflated me with hope, the way the white of his eye looked so bright against the deep red of the blood. I remember how his breath and even his skin smelled like bourbon. I remember how startling the realization was. Once I knew Harry might live, I knew what had to be done. It wasn't his car. No one knew he was here. I had to get him to the hospital, and I had to make sure no one found out he'd been driving. I couldn't let him go to jail. What if they tried him for vehicular manslaughter? I couldn't let my daughter find out her father had been driving drunk and killed someone, had killed his lover, had killed the man who he said was showing him he could love again. I enlisted Nick to help me get Harry into our car. I made him help me put the other man back into the totaled sedan, this time in the driver's seat. And then I quickly grabbed a scarf from my bag and wiped the steering wheel clean, wiped the blood, wiped the seat belt. I erased all traces of Harry. And then we took Harry to the hospital. There, blood-stained and crying, I called the police from a payphone and reported the accident. When I hung up the phone, I turned and saw Nick sitting in the waiting room, blood on his chest, his arms, even some on his neck. I walked over to him. He stood up. "You should go home," I said. He nodded, still in shock. "Can you get yourself home? Do you want me to call you a ride?" "I don't know," he said. "I'll call you a cab then." I grabbed my purse. I pulled out 2 20s from my wallet. "This should be enough to get you there." "Okay," he said. "You're going to go home, and you're going to forget everything that happened, everything you saw." "What did we do?" he said. How could we? "You're going to call me," I said. "I'll get a room at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Call me there tomorrow, first thing in the morning. You're not going to talk to anyone else between now and then, do you hear me?" "Yes." "Not your mother, or your friends, or even the cab driver. Do you have a girlfriend?" He shook his head. "A roommate?" He nodded. "You tell them that you found a man on the street and you brought him to the hospital, okay? That's all you tell them, and you only tell them if they ask." "Okay." He nodded. I called him a cab and waited with him until it arrived. I put him in the back seat. "What are you going to do first thing tomorrow?" I asked him through the rolled-down window. "I'm going to call you." "Good," I said. "If you can't sleep, think. Think about what you need. What you need from me as a thank you for what you did." He nodded, and the cab zoomed off. People were staring at me. Evelyn Hugo in a pantsuit covered in blood. I was afraid paparazzi would be there any minute. I went inside. I talked my way into borrowing some scrubs and being given a private room to wait in. I threw my clothes away. When a man from the hospital staff asked me for a statement about what happened to Harry, I said, How much will it take for you to leave me alone?" I was relieved when the dollar figure he came up with was less than what I had in my purse. Just after midnight, a doctor came into the room and told me that Harry's femoral artery had been severed. He had lost too much blood. For a brief moment I wondered if I should go get my old clothes, if I could give some of his blood back to him, if it worked like that. But I was distracted by the next words out of the doctor's mouth. "He will not make it." I started gasping for air as I realized that Harry, my Harry, was going to die. "Would you like to say goodbye?" He was unconscious in the bed when I walked into the room. He looked paler than normal, but they had cleaned him up a bit. There was no longer blood everywhere. I could see his handsome face. "He doesn't have long," the doctor said, "but we can give you a moment." I did not have the luxury of panic. So I got into the bed with him. I held his hand even though it felt limp. Maybe I should have been mad at him for getting behind the wheel of a car when he'd been drinking. But I couldn't ever get very mad at Harry. I knew he was always doing the very best he could with the pain he felt at any given moment. And this, however tragic, had been the best he could do. I put my forehead to his and said, "I want you to stay, Harry. We need you, me and Connor." I grabbed his hand tighter. "But if you have to go, then go. Go if it hurts. Go if it's time. Just go knowing you are loved, that I will never forget you, that you will live in everything Connor and I do. Go knowing I love you purely, Harry, that you were an amazing father. Go knowing I told you all my secrets, because you were my best friend." Harry died an hour later. After he was gone, I had the devastating luxury of panic. In the morning, a few hours after I'd checked into the hotel, I woke up to a phone call. My eyes were swollen from crying and my throat hurt. The pillow was still stained with tears. I was pretty sure I'd only slept for an hour, maybe less. "Hello," I said. "It's Nick." "Nick? Your driver." "Oh," I said, "yes, hi." "I know what I want," he said. His voice was confident. Its strength scared me. I felt so weak right then, but I knew it had been my idea for this call to happen. I had set up the nature of it. "Tell me what you want to keep you quiet," was what I had said without saying it. "I want you to make me famous," he said. And when he did, the very last shred of affection I had for stardom drained out of me. "Do you realize the full extent of what you're asking?" I said. "If you're a celebrity, last night will be dangerous for you too." "That's not a problem," he said. I sighed, disappointed. "Okay," I said, resigned. "I can get you parts. The rest is up to you." "That's fine. That's all I need." I asked him his agent's name and I got off the phone. I made 2 phone calls. One was to my own agent, telling him to poach Nick from his guy. The second was to a man with the highest grossing action movie in the country. It was about a police chief in his late 50s who defeats Russian spies on the day he's supposed to retire. "Don," I said when he answered the phone. "Evelyn, what can I do for you?" "I need you to hire a friend of mine in your next movie, the biggest part you can get him." "Okay," he said, "you got it." He did not ask me why. He did not ask me if I was okay. We had been through enough together for him to know better. I simply gave him Nick's name and I got off the phone. After I set the phone back in the cradle, I bawled and I howled. I gripped the sheets. I missed the only man I'd ever loved with any lasting meaning. My heart ached in my chest when I thought about telling Connor, when I thought about trying to live a day without him, when I thought of a world without Harry Cameron. It was Harry who created me, who powered me, who loved me unconditionally, who gave me a family and a daughter. So I bellowed in my hotel room. I opened the windows and I screamed out into the open air. I let my tears soak everything in sight. If I had been in a better frame of mind, I might have marveled at just how opportunistic Nick was, how aggressive. In my younger years, I might have been impressed. Harry most certainly would have said he had guts. Plenty of people can make something out of being in the right place at the right time, but Nick somehow turned being in the wrong place at the wrong time into a career. Then again, I might be giving that moment too much credit in Nick's own story. He changed his name, cut his hair, and went on to do very, very big things. And something tells me that even if he had never run into me, he would have made it happen all on his own. I guess what I'm saying is, it's not all luck. It's luck and being a son of a bitch. Harry taught me that.
Now this. February 28, 1989. Producer Harry Cameron has died. Harry Cameron, prolific producer and one-time husband of Evelyn Hugo, died of an aneurysm over the weekend in Los Angeles. He was 58 years old. The independent producer, formerly a Sunset Studios mogul, was known for shepherding some of Hollywood's greatest films, including the 50s classics To Be With You and Little Women, and some of the most exciting films of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, such as 1981's All for Us. He had just wrapped on the upcoming Teresa's Wisdom. Cameron was known for his keen taste and kind but firm demeanor. Hollywood has been left heartbroken with the loss of one of its favorites. Harry was an actor's producer, said a former colleague. If he picked up a project, you knew you wanted to be involved. Cameron is survived by his teenage daughter with Evelyn Hugo, Connor Cameron. Now this. September 4th, 1989. Wild Child. Blind item. Which precious Hollywood progeny was caught with her pants down? And we mean that literally. This daughter of former A++ list actress has been having a rough time, and it appears that instead of lying low, she's going wild. We hear that at the age of 14, this wild child has been MIA from her prestigious high school and is often seen out at one of New York's various high-profile clubs, at which she's rarely, sober. We're not just talking alcohol, either. There seems to be some powder under your nose there. Apparently, her mother has been trying to get a handle on the situation, but things hit the fan when Wild Child was caught with 2 fellow students in bed.
6 months after Harry died, I knew I had no choice but to get Connor out of town. I had tried everything else. I was attentive and nurturing. I tried to get her into therapy. I talked with her about her father. She, unlike the rest of the world, knew he had been in a car accident, and she understood why something like that needed to be delicately handled. But I knew it only compounded her stress. I tried to get her to open up to me, but nothing was helping me get her to make better choices. She was 14 years old and had lost her father with the same swiftness and heartbreak with which I had lost my mother so many years before. I had to take care of my child. I had to do something. My instinct was to move her away from the spotlight, away from people willing to sell her drugs, willing to take advantage of her pain. I needed to bring her someplace where I could watch her, where I could protect her. She needed to process and heal, and she could not do that with the life I had made for us. Aldise, Celia said. We were talking on the phone. I had not seen her in months, but we talked every night. Celia helped ground me, helped me to keep moving forward. Most nights, as I lay in bed speaking to Celia on the phone, I could speak of nothing but my daughter's pain. And when I could speak of something different, it was my own pain. I was just starting to come out of it, to see a light at the end of the tunnel, when Celia suggested Aldiz. "Where's that?" I asked. "It's on the southern coast of Spain. It's a small city. I've talked to Robert. He has a call into some friends he knows in Malaga, which isn't too far. He's going to ask about any English-language schools. It's mostly a fishing village. I don't get the impression anyone will care about us." "It's quiet?" I asked. "I think so," she said. "I think Connor would have to really go out of her way to find trouble." "That seems to be her M.O., I said. "You'll be there for her. I'll be around. Robert will be there. We will make sure she's okay. We will make sure she's supported, that she has people to talk to, that she makes the right types of friends." I knew that moving to Spain would mean losing Luisa. She had already moved with us from L.A. to New York. She wouldn't want to uproot her life again to move to Spain. But I also knew she had been taking care of our family for decades and was tired. I got the impression that our leaving the United States would be just the excuse she needed to move on. I would make sure she was taken care of. And anyway, I was ready to take a more hands-on approach to maintaining my home. I wanted to be the kind of person who made dinner, who scrubbed a toilet, who was available to my daughter at all times. "Are any of your movies big in Spain?" I asked. "Nothing recently," Celia said. "Yours?" "Just bout en train," I said, "so no." "Do you really think you'll be able to handle this?" "No," I said, even before I knew what Celia was specifically talking about. "Which part do you mean?" "Insignificance." I laughed. "Oh, God," I said, "yes, that's about the only part I am ready for." When the plans were finalized, when I knew what school Connor would go to, what houses we were going to buy, how we were going to live, I walked into Connor's room and sat down on her bed. She was wearing a Duran Duran t-shirt and faded jeans. Her blonde hair was teased at the crown. She was still grounded from when I had caught her having a threesome, so she had no choice but to sit there with a sour face and listen as I spoke. I told her I was retiring from acting. I told her we were moving to Spain. I told her I thought she and I would be happier living with good people, away from all the fame and the cameras. And then I very gently, very tentatively, told her that I was in love with Celia. I told her I was going to marry Robert, and I explained why, succinctly and clearly. I did not treat her like a child. I spoke to her as an adult. I finally gave her the truth, my truth. I did not tell her about Harry, about how long I had been with Celia, or anything that she didn't need to know. Those things would come in time. But I told her what she deserved to understand. And when I was done, I said, "I'm ready to hear everything you have to say. I'm ready to answer any questions at all. Let's have a discussion about this." But all she did was shrug her shoulders. "I don't care, Mom," she said, sitting on her bed with her back against the wall. "I really don't. You can love whoever, marry anybody, you can make me live wherever, go to whatever school you decide. I don't care, okay? I just don't care. All I want is to be left alone, so just leave my room, please. If you can do that, then the rest of it, I don't care." I looked at her, stared right into her eyes, and ached for her aching. With her blonde hair and her face thinning out, I was starting to fear that she looked more like me than Harry. Sure, conventionally speaking, she would be more attractive if she looked like me, but she should look like Harry. The world should give us that. "All right," I said, "I will leave you alone for now." I got up, I gave her some space. I packed up our things, I hired movers, I made plans with Celia and Robert. 2 days before we left New York, I walked into her bedroom and said, "I'll give you your freedom in Aldis. You can choose your own room. I'll make sure you can come back here to visit some of your friends. I'll do whatever I can to make life easier for you, but I need 2 things." "What?" she said. Her voice sounded disinterested, but she was looking at me, she was talking to me. "Dinner together every night." "Mom, I'm giving you a lot of leeway here, a lot of trust. All I'm asking for is 2 things. One is dinner every night. But it's non-negotiable. You only have 3 more years until you're in college anyway. You can handle 1 meal a day." She looked away from me. "Fine. What's the second?" "You're going to see a psychologist. At least for a little while. You've been through too much. We all have. You need to start talking to someone." When I had tried this before, months earlier, I was too weak with her. I let her tell me no. I wasn't going to do that this time. I was stronger now. I could be a better mother. Maybe she could detect it in my voice because she didn't try to fight me. She just said, "Okay, whatever." I hugged her and kissed the top of her head, and just when I was going to let go, she wrapped her arms around me and hugged me back.
Evelyn's eyes are wet. They have been for some time. She stands up and grabs a tissue from across the room. She's such a spectacular woman, by which I mean she herself is a spectacle. But she's also deeply, deeply human, and it is simply impossible for me in this moment to remain objective. Against all journalistic integrity, I simply care about her too much not to be moved by her pain, not to feel for all she has felt. It must be so hard, what you're doing, telling your story with so much frankness. I just want you to know that I admire you for it. "Don't say that," Evelyn says. "Okay, just do me a favor, and don't say anything like that. I know who I am. By tomorrow you will too." "You keep saying that, but we're all flawed. Do you really believe your past redemption?" She ignores me. She looks out the window without even looking at me. "Evelyn," I say, "do you honestly—" She cuts me off and she looks back at me. "You agreed not to press. We'll be done soon enough and you won't be left wondering about anything." I look at her skeptically. "Really," she says. "This is one thing on which you can trust me."